Brace yourselves. Recitation of lists. Pithy lists of philosophy and religions of the world. Universes of speculation, specified and reduced to their essence. There's no need to take notes. Copies of this sermon will be made available. Now, Unitarian Universalism has 7 principles and 6 sources, and these contain numerous sermons that I've given over 25 years, and there'll probably be more that will follow. But today I want to take you on a historical tour of other lists. And I begin with the Hebrews and their ancient set of rules attributed to Moses, even to God. The 10 Commandments in the English of King James. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Honor your father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And then number 10, thou shalt not covet. And it gives a list of things, but concludes with anything that is thy neighbor's. Through the course of our lives, many of us have kept some of those commandments. The first 4 are about our relationship to God, and the last 6 are about human relationships. Let us move to India, where 2,500 years ago, Buddha set forth the Eightfold Path. Now, this does not focus on God at all, but it focuses on the relationship within yourself and with others. The Eightfold Path was his tricky way of making a list. He called the first list the Four Noble Truths. Number 1 was that life is suffering. And number 2 was that suffering was caused by attachment to things. And number 3 was suffering ceases by ceasing these attachments. And number 4, this is the tricky part, Buddha was pretty clever, was the Eightfold Path. And that was right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So Buddha, in his list, gave us 2 lists in one. Back in Palestine, 2,000 years ago, Jesus blessed us with the Beatitudes, 8 statements. 1, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. 2, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. 3, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. 4, blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. 5, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. 6, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. 7, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And 8, blessed are they that are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. In the 7th century, Muhammad founded Islam, and the 5 pillars of Islam are Allah Akbar, confessing that there is no God but Allah. 2, performing prayers 5 times a day. 3, giving alms to the poor. 4, fasting. And 5, pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, Thomas Aquinas, a Roman Catholic theologian, in his writing Summa Theologica, describes the 7 deadly sins. This was just a simple list of things to avoid. In case you couldn't remember the list of things to do, at least you could avoid these things. And they were pride, envy, sloth, avarice, gluttony, and lust. Sheltering at home during this COVID-19 pandemic, many of us are learning firsthand about sloth and gluttony. Now, gluttony takes many forms, and modern science calls some of those forms addictions. In 1939, Bill W. and Dr. Bob wrote the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and outlined the following 12 steps. 1. We admitted we are powerless over alcohol. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us. 3. Made a decision to turn our will over to the care of God as we understood him. I always thought that was the most Unitarian Universalist statement, as we understood him. Made a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. Admitted to God and ourselves and to other human beings the exact nature of our wrongs. We're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Humbly asked to have our shortcomings removed. 8. Made a list of all the people we have harmed and become willing to make amends to them. I think this is something that we all could follow. 9. Made direct amends to such people whenever possible. 10. Continued to take personal inventory when we are wrong and admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood. And 12. Have a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We tried and carried this message forward. These steps have been applied to other things like overeating, sex addiction, and gambling. Any problem which a person has lost control and seeks a way of assessing power to stop. Now, the American Humanist Society Association has come up with its own list of 10 commitments. They didn't number them, they listed them alphabetically. But it's still 10 of them. First was altruism. I will help others in need without thinking for rewards. Critical thinking. I will practice good judgment by asking questions and thinking for myself. Empathy. I will consider other people's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Environmentalism. I will take care of the earth and the life on it. Ethical development. I will always focus on becoming a better person. Global awareness. I will be a good neighbor to the people who share the earth with me and help make the earth a better place for everyone. Humility. I will be aware of my strengths and weaknesses and appreciate the strengths and weaknesses of others. Peace and social justice. I will help people solve problems and handle disagreements in ways that are fair to everyone. Responsibility. I will be a good person even when no one is looking and own the consequences of my action. And finally, number 10, service and participation. I will help my community in ways that let me get to know the people I am helping. There you have it. I've given you a selection of several lists that tell you what to do and what to avoid. Pick one and run with it. Many people just accept the list that's given to them. They do not even know that there are other lists to live by, and they don't care to ask. Asking a question kind of defeats the purpose of a list. A list is designed to be the answer, and it's kind of impolite to ask more questions. All over the world at various times, people have had codes for living. There seems to be a human need to define the life in a few sentences. Someone before us has laid down the law, and it's our duty to follow. Because lists kind of absolve us of responsibility. You just kind of think, well, someone else has already figured it out. There's a sense of security, of knowing the rules. Life is difficult, it's complicated. There's a yearning for it to be simple. I think any of us who has worked on a home project knows that if all else fails, read the instructions. And it's not just for the big questions of life. We want lists for everything. When you're at the checkout line and you're socially distancing, you have more time to read those magazines that are there. And they always have these articles that are like 7 steps to perfect abs, 6 rules for a happy marriage, 5 ways to have perfect kids, the 4-step weight loss plan, or get rich now with our 3-step plan. We do not have the time to do all the research for ourselves. So we ask, what's the essence? What's the bottom line? Give me the gist. Religion by the numbers is tempting because it makes life simple. But have you ever seen a paint-by-numbers masterpiece? In a paint-by-number picture, all the colors are in the right place, but it looks flat. It looks fragmented. There are no gradients of shade and no washes of light. It doesn't look real. If we want our lives to be real, they cannot be paint-by-number pictures. We can't not make them fit into somebody else's list. Sometimes we get so busy with the rules of life that we forget how to live. I think of musicians, if they're playing together. Sometimes there's someone who's playing directly to the notes on paper, but they're not playing with the rest of the people in the group. There's kind of a magic that happens that is beyond what can be written down. During this outbreak, we've been given rules to stay alive. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I've saw 7 of you doing it. Avoid crowds. We seem to be doing well there. Stay 6 feet apart. Stay at home, except for essential needs. There's a certain part of us that does not like being told what to do. And we see that happening in degrees, from people who are protesting at state houses with guns to people who just kind of sneak out of the house a little bit more than they should. And we find out that even when given rules, they are not always clear. Because what is the actual meaning of essential? What are the things that are essential in your life? And I think that's probably one of the greatest questions that we have been forced to deal with during this pandemic. It's a question that we should ask ourselves all the time. And it's a question that isn't immediately answered by a list, because each of us are individuals and have different answers to the question, what is essential? In many ways, rules are about conformity. Moses demanded the worship of only one God. Buddha defined which 8 things were right. Jesus stated that meekness was blessed. The word Islam means to submit. The 12-step programs ask you to sacrifice your power to try to get power from someone else. And even the humanists commit to being humble. A rule book challenges our sense of free will. It limits our choices. Yet there are ways that the rules make us more free. The rules of the road frustrate us and slow us down. But imagine if there were no rules. How free would we actually be if anyone could drive in any lane at any speed at any time they choose? What if traffic lights came in all colors? It certainly would be more beautiful. And if people were free to put their own interpretation to those colors, absolute freedom would turn into absolute chaos. But sometimes, when rules are followed to the letter, it can cause more problems than they solve. Sometime back in the 1970s, 3 drivers decided to fix the problem of rush hour traffic in Detroit. To prevent speeding, they occupied all 3 lanes of the freeway. They drove the speed limit and did not allow law-breaking speeders to pass. The traffic jam was terrible, so bad that the state troopers had to intervene and pull them off the road to restore the regular, predictable Motor City madness. How do we strike a balance between the order facilitated by law and stifling conformity? Is there a middle path between anarchy and fascism? They say a conservative is a liberal who has been mugged, and a liberal is a conservative who has been arrested. We want laws to control others, but not us. I like to think of the wisdom of the world as a roadmaps for living. A map can help one navigate, and we may choose different maps depending on what we want to find. But we must remember the map is not the territory, and that all maps have distortions. An actual size map will not fold and fit in your glove compartment. The businesses that appear first on your GPS are the businesses who have paid the web map company, not necessarily the business you need. You might actually have to look out your window for that. People like religious rules because they appear to be unchanging. And when you have an unchanging rule, you just interpret reality so it fits somehow into the rule. But the old map doesn't always show where the new roads are. Science is more reliable because it applies the latest information. But as we learn more, rules change. We live in a difficult time. So many voices fill our ears with lists of what should or should not be. And there is conflict. And this is where it's important for us to really reflect on that question, what is essential? To keep focus on our life's goals. What do you need to find fulfillment for yourself and compassion for others? What freedom can we exercise within the restraints of the rules? The rules and roadmaps may be a means to the end, but they are not the end in themselves. We must think, what is the reason behind any rule? What is the spirit of harmony and cooperativeness that we hope to achieve by making a rule or following a rule? What is the spirit of the law. And how does one follow it when the letter of the law seems to contradict the spirit of the law? May we be guided on our journeys by the wisdom of the ages. And remember that it's dangerous to read the map while driving 70 miles an hour or faster on the freeway. We must be mindful of our current reality. The car in front of us is not on our map. We must be aware of others who share the road on our journey. This pandemic has reminded us that we all share one world. May we do it with kindness and compassion. May we bless and be blessed.
Thank you, Charlie. Our closing words are by Amy Kaufman in Unearthed. When we allow ourselves to explore, we discover destinations that were never on the map. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice with our extinguishing song.
That's Mike. Some of the people. Oh, there's Joanne.
Okay, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts as we are together again.
Thus do we covenant one another.
They're having a Zoom social.
Thank you. So I want to thank those members of the New Bern Youth Fellowship for joining us by Zoom today, and remind our Greenville members to stick around for our virtual coffee hour. If you want to leave our meeting, place your cursor near the bottom right-hand corner of the page, and you will see the chat. You can leave anytime you like, but we hope that our UUC members stick around. To make sure everyone gets a chance to speak, I will start by calling on anyone joining us by phone, since they won't be able to see who else is in the group. Then move to those joining us by video. Take a minute.
I left the meeting, but I think our UUs are having.
Okay, so maybe they're